because you don't have the right to put other people at risk. You don't have the right to make that decision for other people. And that's the thing that conservatives don't understand, that they don't have the right to make those decisions for other people. And that's why you see those conservatives making these decisions about abortions that affect individuals who, who are pregnant and who have risky pregnancies, because they don't worry about the fact that it might harm anybody else, because they don't care about the harm that might happen to everybody else. They just pass these draconian abortion laws because to them it's their morals, but their morals aren't moral. Which is a good segue, I think, to our guest, Manuel, a progressive candidate for Louisiana's 1st Congressional District. Welcome.
Hi, Dan.
Hello.
Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. Look, I ran for the 1st Congressional District in 2004. We are a fraternity of sorts, I guess, for lack of a better word. I feel, I don't know if compassion is the word, camaraderie with anybody who decides to throw their hat in that ring. So when I saw,
I think compassion and camaraderie both work here.
Yes. So when I saw, I don't know if it was first a Facebook post or something on Twitter, and I saw that you were running. I'm like, I need to get them on my show, and I need to help them out as much as I can, because I was there. I feel you. So let's give your introduction. Let the audience know who you are and what you stand for and why you decided to throw your hat in this ring.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Manuel. I'm from Covington. Live in Madisonville now, and I've been, most of my life I've been a teacher, a public school teacher. And I definitely would never have considered doing anything in politics until very recently in my life, because, as I'm sure many of you guys know, or I've heard of the book banning movement that's been kind of, I guess, the epicenter is in St. Tammany Parish. Mm-hmm. I've even heard that we are the book banning capital of the nation, which is pretty crazy. So, and that is closely tied with homophobia and transphobia, because, at the heart of the censorship movement is really about banning books that have to do with the LGBTQ community or people of color. So when that started up about, I guess, a little over a year ago now, I realized that, we got to take action here. So I decided to run because, as I'm sure you know, and many other people know, I have a very slim chance of beating Scalise, but that's not really, or let's see, even if I don't win, I still want to run. And what I'm trying to do here is a couple of things. I want to move the needle. So like last year, Katie Darling ran against Scalise, and she got 25% of the vote. I'm going to move it further. I'm actively trying to recruit progressive candidates. So I've joined our local Democratic Party, DPEC, which is the St. Tammany Parish level Democratic Party. And I'm recruiting progressive candidates to join us there and run for office. I want to represent the LGBTQ community, and then raise awareness about different issues that are important to me, like reproductive freedom and how the quality of life of Louisianans is really suffering right now.
And one of the things, we expect, conservatives when they're targeting people. I mean, we expect them to go after the LGBTQ community. That seemed to be par for the course. But some of the books that, I think in one of the states, it might have been Florida. I don't know if they tried to do it in St. Tammany as well. But I mean, like there was one of the books that got banned in one of the areas was like a book on Rosa Parks or something like it's like absurd, like the amount. Like,
oh yeah, I mean, they haven't successfully actually banned any books in St. Tammany Parish yet. That's in large part due to we have a really great library director and some really awesome board members for the library.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they did challenge like The Bluest Eye, which is Toni Morrison, which is crazy. It's an adult book. It's not a kid's book. And I mean, I can't really imagine any reason that they would challenge that book other than the author is black.
Right.
Which is insane. But I mean, it's just racism, like pure and simple.
And like to me, like to me, what I've considered what the conservatism was, like at least what they usually subscribe themselves or describe themselves to be, would be the parents' decision to determine whether or not their kids should read the book. You know, they might, complain about a book being read in the classroom, and then they might be upset that in a classroom setting that their kids are being read a book. But this is in a library where they should be able to control, like, okay, you want to read this book? Fine, read this book. Don't go read this book. They should have full control as to what their kids read at home when they're checking it out from the library. And if they don't, well, isn't that a commentary on their parenting abilities and not on anything on the school?
Oh, 100%. I mean, they're definitely all about parental rights, unless we're talking about the rights of queer parents or parents of queer children, and then we don't have any rights.
Right. Well, there's a great Twitter thread that I've talked about several times on the show already, where basically the bottom line is that for at least many conservatives, the bottom line comes down to conservatives don't like to be told what to do, but they love to tell other people what to do. So
that certainly seems to be the case right now in St. Tammany Parish.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, you're a parent. You have one child, I believe, or
yep, yeah.
And
I just have one.
Yeah, and so you have you have you're it's not like you're not. Because somebody coming out from the situation where you were concerned about raising your kid as well. So just like I'm concerned about raising mine, I have two kids as well, and I think they need to have a good quality education that includes access to educational materials that don't hide information. And like you said, like they want to hide books because like an author is black, or because it talks about information that they're afraid might make the poor white kids feel uncomfortable for being white. Like I've never once, when I was being educated about the social injustices that in the history of our country, I never once was made to feel guilty because I have white skin, because people in the past who also had white skin did bad things. I was like, yeah, it sucks and we shouldn't do that again. But I was never made to feel like, oh, well, hey, I feel bad because of this. To me, it's like the only reason that anybody might want to hide that is because they file, history forgotten repeats itself. Well, maybe they want history to repeat itself. Who knows?
Yeah, no, I think all of these book challenges are just really thinly veiled. Racism, homophobia, transphobia. I mean, the overwhelming majority of them would fall into one of those categories. I mean, like the first library board meeting that we went to, where they talked about challenged books, it was all kids' books. I mean, like little kids' books, 3 and 4 year olds. And like one book, for example, it's Louisiana the Mermaid, and it was just a story about a little boy who likes to wear mermaid costumes, and it didn't say that he was trans. I mean, maybe gender nonconforming, or I don't know, but he just was a boy that liked to wear a costume, and and they challenged that,
right?
Which is so crazy. But I mean, I don't understand why this kind of idea that they feel so fragile or so threatened by someone else's gender identity or anything that might like possibly lead to children exploring gender identity. I don't know. It's really kind of crazy to me.
I mean, I personally don't understand it either. I mean, but then again, I'm a parent who tries to allow my children to express themselves as they want to express themselves. My boys, one of them, wanted to paint his fingernails, so we painted his fingernails. Both of them at some point wanted different colored hair, so we had different colored hair. My oldest wanted to wear a pink cap sleeve Doc McStuffin shirt, so we got him a pink cap sleeve Doc McStuffin shirt. It was, quote, in the girls section, quote unquote, but in reality, why is clothing gendered to begin with? There's no reason why clothing needs to be gendered. If somebody wants to wear something and makes them happy, let the person wear the clothes that makes them happy. There doesn't need to be made to be a big deal about it. Like, I remember way back in the day.
I completely agree.
Okay, I mean, one of my early days of conversing in politics, I remember some conservative asking me, like, if you ever have children and your child sees, two men kissing, what are you going to tell them when they ask you, why are those two men kissing? I'll be like, because they're in love. And then my kid will be like, okay, because I'm not going to make a big deal about it, because that's what it is, or.
Yeah, I kind of think we're seeing these reactions, the anti-trans and anti-queer legislation. Last year, there was over 500 anti-LGBTQ bills proposed nationwide, which is a record high. Every year it's been a record,
right,
in the past few years. But the reason I think that we're seeing this is because generation over generation, the LGBTQ identity, or people who identify as LGBTQ, is essentially doubling each generation. I mean, millennials are something like 10 to 11% queer identifying, but my daughter's generation is closer to 25%, which is a very high increase. And I think that we're seeing a reaction to far-right conservatives feeling very threatened by this change. Because, I mean, think about when that generation grows up, are they going to be voting Republican? No.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, I really think this is kind of what it all boils down to. Like, their voter base is going to shrink, and they're going to become dinosaurs. And so I think the only tactic that they have is to scare people. We have to keep scaring you into thinking you're going to, your lives or your livelihood or your values are at stake because of these people. Critical race theory is the reason that, I don't know, you don't have a job, or it's trans people or immigrants or whatever boogeyman they can conjure up, because they are absolutely threatened.
Right, let's see. Lifted and Gifted in the chat says, pretty sure bras are made for boobs. I'm like, I think bras are made for more than just Republicans. But I'm bumped. Anyway, so I mean, and one of the things though that, like, there's this horrible Twitter account that I don't follow, but for some reason Elon has decided to like make me see all the time, or the new algorithms I see all the time. And the argument that they make, they come to the wrong conclusion, I think, when it comes to like those expanding numbers of people. I don't think that the number of people who identify, as LGBTQ, identify as queer, I don't think those number of people are happening because of any nefarious reasons like the conservatives try and paint them out to be. I think that the people have always been there and have always been that way. We've just are in a more open society that allows people to explore who they are and feel how they are, and we have more open people who allow people to feel less shame over what their true feelings are and live their true real selves. Like, and if that's the case, then that's a good thing. So nobody's trying to like come in there and tell your kids this is how you should be, and trying to turn your kids that to be any particular way. But maybe they need to realize that maybe their kids are that way, and the people who are out there are just trying to make your kids less likely to do bad things to themselves, like commit suicide, because these people don't understand that for trans kids, the studies show that for every individual that accepts a trans kid for who they are, they're like 50% less likely to commit suicide. And that should be a good thing. If they're pro-life, if they're really pro-life, they should be supportive of making sure that these children are not wanting to off themselves. And also, they should be supporting other things like good mental health programs to help them deal, with what their feelings are, to help guide them through these things, because we know we don't have a good mental health system in this country whatsoever. But that's a whole other topic altogether.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with you that the reason that we are seeing more LGBTQ identifying people is in part because we're becoming way more accepting. And then I also think part of it is giving people broader language to use. Like, for example, if I told you there's only two genders, male and female, then you're probably going to pick one of those because that's the only two options. But if I told you, well, I mean, you could be non-binary, or you could be trans-masculine, or maybe you don't identify with any gender, or, and then, like, once you give vocabulary, more words to someone to use, more options, then they begin thinking about that. Well, how do I actually feel about myself? So I think that's also part of it. But I don't understand why anyone would feel threatened by this. Like, in the end, like, trans people make up about 1% of our population, so we're a small community to begin with. But I mean, we're certainly not threatening in any way.
Well, I mean, because trans folks are such a small segment of the population, that's why they make such a good scapegoat, is because they can't. It's harder to fight back. It's why do you think that, as a Jewish person myself, I understand that, Jews make an easy scapegoat because we're not a very big part of the population either, so we're easy scapegoats. It's always easy to go after the small groups and make the small groups into the scapegoats. So
exactly, yeah, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. And I mean, I feel like it just comes in waves. Like, one day it's Muslims that we're hating, one day it's people of color, maybe it's Jewish people, maybe it's Catholics, trans people. It just, we have to, like, for Republicans, they have to constantly be afraid of and hating some or multiple groups of people, and they're, specifically non-white, Christian, non-straight people,
Right. And people who might be in the chat who might question the whole, the gender binary and why we oppose the idea of the gender binary. I mean, you can go look at the Scientific American. There are several articles in the Scientific American that clearly spell out why, the gender binary is an antiquated idea. Why there's plenty of, scientific reasons to explain why the gender binary is a overly simplistic point of view, where the idea of male and female is just simply like an approximation of what many people feel, and many people don't feel that way either.
Yeah, I would say, like, I would explain that as gender is a construct, right?
Yeah.
It's made up by humans. So, I mean, what is male or female gender? I mean, it's just a collection of stereotypes. So, I mean, if I asked you what to define male gender, you might tell me, like, I don't know, men like sports and they have trouble sharing their feelings, and I don't know, some other bunch of stereotypes. And then if I ask, well, what makes a woman female gendered? And somebody might say, well, women like shopping and they're emotional. All of these things are just stereotypes. They're not real.
Right.
And we don't know a single man or woman, even if you do identify as male gendered or female gendered, who's going to fit into these stereotypes, because it's a caricature of a human. Nobody is that.
Right. I mean, for me, I think male is a good approximation for what I am, because I don't feel like anything like is wrong when I don't feel any dysphoria when I'm referred to as that way. I don't feel as if I would feel euphoric if I would express myself any differently. I mean, I necessarily haven't tried, but there are other people I've had, guests on the show who describe the dysphoria of how they were before their procedures, and the euphoria they feel now because they're able to be their true authentic selves. I have a family member who is a trans woman who is much happier with her life now that she's able to live her true self, it's 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 just so.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's just if you feel that way, then that's great. And I certainly don't want to.
And with my friend,
Personally,
I have a friend of mine who with his permission, I blow some of their minds with it because like, what would you? I was like, I have a friend of mine who literally is considered a trans male because he was assigned female at birth, despite the fact that he also is XY chromosomally, but because of
oh, okay.
whatever genetics took place or whatever other factors were there, developed, what parts would make the doctor say, oh, that's a female. So, and they don't know how to
Yeah.
handle that because they don't know how to handle, quote, exceptions or whatever. And then they're like, oh, that's just an exception. Well, you have to be able to, they're people too, though. And you have to be able to handle and respect and honor everybody and not just treat them just, oh, well, they're just exceptions, so let's write them off. No, we have to be able to treat everybody with dignity and respect. So,
like, intersex people are not as rare as I think some people think. I
Right.
heard somebody say that they're as common as redheaded people, and that's pretty close to accurate. So there's actually a lot. There's so much variety, even with biological sex. Same as gender.
Right. I mean, there's more than two combinations of XY chromosomes. There's at least 6. There's plenty of different ways, biologically speaking, that people develop. There's no set level of hormones for men and women. Hormones can affect how people develop differently as well. People face like trans misogyny even if they're not trans. Like, what's the name of that Olympic athlete? I think was it Castor something? I can't remember her last name, but they're always like wanting to give her tests because they think that she's a trans woman.
Oh, because she has naturally high testosterone.
Yeah, but she's a cis woman. She just happens to have high levels of testosterone because that's what her body naturally creates. And
Yeah, we just have to stop putting people in little boxes because it's not how humans actually are. We don't all fit into nice little boxes, and that's kind of beautiful, I think.
Yeah, and we should just. I always say, people ask me, how many genders are there? Infinite genders. Because everybody is a unique person, and everybody is unique, and everybody should be, be allowed to define themselves as they wish, and everybody should be respectful of that. It doesn't hurt anybody to do that, and that just, it seems natural to me, but I guess it doesn't seem natural. As I was saying earlier, but when I was talking about how, the response to COVID, empathy is something that seems to be lacking amongst many conservatives today, and it's an unfortunate reality that we have so many people who will tell me, who are conservatives, who are Christians, that it's all about love and love of Christ and this, that, and the other, but in reality they don't live that because they lack so much empathy for the people that just need empathy, and it just doesn't exist, and it's a sad reality, especially where you live,
I don't
up
remember.
in the North Shore.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on the bright side, though, we do, since the kind of pro-censorship movement started, we've had a resurgence of activists here, like I've never seen before. We have so many people. I mean, I think you had Britt Gandolfi on your show
She's on
recently.
the show. She will be on again. So, and you're welcome to come on anytime as well. So,
I think, she's amazing. I mean, like, people like Britt are popping up left and right. We have Joan Simon, who's a local activist here.
Right. I know Joan.
If you go to one of our library board meetings, you will hear like dozens of who are now, I would say, are activists speaking up for democracy, for LGBTQ rights. It's really, like, I guess for every Connie Phillips,
yeah,
who's like been leading the charge of the pro-censorship. For every Connie Phillips, there's an activist who is sprout up, to combat that hate. So that's encouraging. I don't want to sound like it's all doom and gloom over here. We have some really great people here as well.
I mean, there is some. I mean, I've been up there, but yes, I mean, it's good to see that that people are coming together and people are fighting back. It's just unfortunate that they have to. So
It is, but like the Library Alliance, which is the organization that formed to fight the censorship movement, is much larger than the Accountability Project, which is Connie's organization.
Right. So, anything else you want to say about the campaign? I know you have to go and get the kiddo ready for bed for school. So, but anything else you want to share about the campaign before I let you go?
Yeah, I would just say I need everybody who's listening to this to please vote on October 14th. This is a really important election, and I know some people, some progressives, especially in Louisiana, we can get the idea that it's hopeless here, or that our vote doesn't matter, or that's not true. We actually have more registered Democrats in Louisiana than Republicans. So, in some of these statewide elections, gerrymandering doesn't matter. We can win these. So, please, I'm begging all of you guys, please go vote. We do have some really amazing candidates who are going to be running: Dustin Granger, Sean Wilson, Britt Gonzalez, Lindsay Teague, and more. But yeah. Please go vote.
Okay, we have in the chat. We have a link to your website in the chat. It's mel4louisiana.com. It's the number 4, mel4louisiana.com. I have a link also in the chat description on both Blog Talk Radio and on the YouTube video as well. And what I'll do after the show at some point, I don't know if I'll do it today or not, but I'll try and make sure to cut out this segment just by in and of itself and make it its own separate video, so you can share that alone and be able to share that with everybody as well, and so you can get just this interview out by itself without everything else around it. So again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you the best of luck coming out there. If you need any advice or help or anything, I didn't do that great when I ran either, but 12,000 votes is not horrible, but if
well, yeah, but if you're out here on the North Shore, send me a text and we'll grab a drink.
Absolutely.
We can talk about the club.
Next time I'm up on the North Shore,
club that we're in
we'll
now.
definitely come up and have a chat, hang out, talk politics, talk the campaign, talk everything else too. Sounds great.
Okay, thank you so much,
right.
Dan.
Thank you. Again, that was Manuel for Louisiana Congressional District 1. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night, Dan.
Bye.